I once knew an older woman who was about to retire in a couple of years. And then, just as she was approaching her retirement in the company she worked for decades, I think at least 2 decades or so, she got laid off. She got fired by the company, and she was sort of a workaholic, I would say. The way she worked hard, she worked long hours. She gave the company so much. She gave more than she needed, and by default, in a normal day job, we already kind of exchanged 5 days for 2 days of freedom, because we don't work the whole day, Monday to Friday, but let's just be honest, we don't have energy to do what we really want to do. So I would say we exchange 5 days for 2 days of freedom, which is the weekend. And so she did all that work, and then anyway she got fired right before the retirement by the company. And I believe in this country, if you don't reach your retirement age while being employed the whole time, and like the last few years, it actually affects how much you get money when you do get retired. The retirement money. So my point with this story is to say that, first of all, once again, this is tied to my previous video that nobody cares about you. So, since nobody cares about you, you shouldn't give too much to people. You shouldn't sacrifice too much. And you shouldn't think that if you do good to somebody, then they are gonna take care of you. You shouldn't trust that. And the same thing applies to other areas in life, to other things in life. One obvious one being friendships and romantic relationships. And the other little short story related to this topic is about myself and my past and my first relationship, where I believed that since I was dating this clearly damaged girl, she clearly had problems mentally, and she's doing okay now. We are still on good terms because she grew up and she sort of regained her sanity later. And since we were together in high school, it was quite easy for us to be friends later in life, because high school relationships are kind of, sure, they can become real relationships, but oftentimes they are just these sort of not so serious experimental relationships. But anyway, she was clearly fucked up. She had obvious issues, and instead of me being mature enough, because I was a teenager, and saying, oh well, I'm not gonna deal with this bullshit because I have my own shit to deal with, I thought genuinely that I could save her somehow. That if I was good enough to her, then she would see that. She would see how much I do for her. And she would change and appreciate it and all those things. And what happened instead was I spent 3.5 years in a bad relationship that got worse and worse, where I wasn't loved, where I wasn't respected, and where at the end of it, she left me for another guy. And that other guy was somebody fucking skinny and ugly. My friend found out on Facebook that she had already started to date somebody else. And I was humiliated, and heartbroken and all those things. That's what you get when you're in a relationship as a teenager and a young adult. But the point of me sharing that is when you try to save people, you try to please people, you try to do so much for another one, whether you try to do it for a company, for a corporation, or for a romantic partner, you're just gonna get your fingers burned. And that's why we should never do anything for the purposes of pleasing people. I don't think there's ever a reason to please anyone, because another thing about pleasing is that people don't respect it. It's usually a sign of weakness. Is there a time and place for saying something good to people? Is there a time and place to, I don't know, bring a little gift? Yeah, sure, it's kind of like, but that's usually some kind of a tactic, and you gotta be purposeful with it. You gotta understand what you're doing, and it can't be because your self-worth and confidence is so low that you think that this person is above you, and because this person is above you, you gotta please them. That's never gonna, in my experience, bring about anything good. Let everyone know in the comments what you think. Do you agree, or do you have different experiences? Do you think there's definitely reason to please people sometimes or not? But that's just what I, as a 31-year-old, have seen and experienced. And that's why I try to please people less and less. Although I think sometimes I have this problem that I keep to myself maybe too much. That's another story for another time. But my dynamic with, for example, my family, sometimes I feel like maybe I should tell them more or show them more appreciation and all these things. And maybe I'm a little bit too cold or something. Who knows? But anyway, so that's my philosophy with everything. Even with work, I do the work I know needs to be done in my job, but I am not, in this current job, I don't need to overwork ever. There's never a situation where I need to work more than I have to, where I have to work over the official hours. There's never been a situation like that. In my previous job as a programmer, sure, there was a couple of times, only a couple of times, and those were genuine cases where it was really good to just stay for a couple of hours in the evening, and it wasn't me trying to please my boss. It was just like, yeah, this makes sense. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe if you like the environment and the atmosphere and just listening to random shit by a random guy in Finland who's 31 years old. And leave a comment. I love comments. People love comments. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.